The year is 2025, and for the first time in more than a decade, FEMA has issued an updated emergency preparedness list that carries a different weight, one that feels less like advice and more like a warning. FEMA's new list identifies 13 survival essentials that every American household is now urged to keep at home, not as useful extras but as mandatory supplies to endure what the agency calls an era of faster, longer, and more unpredictable disasters. This update did not appear out of nowhere. It was shaped by a year marked by chaotic weather events, power grid failures, contamination crises, and national shortages that expose just how fragile daily life has become. More than 12 million Americans experienced blackouts lasting longer than 72 hours. Food prices rose by 22%, hitting families already strained by inflation. Water contamination issues affected entire towns, forcing boil water notices that lasted weeks. And for the first time ever, rising accidental exposures pushed FEMA to include both Narcan and fentanyl test strips in its official first aid recommendations. These signals point to a simple truth: modern emergencies are no longer brief interruptions. They are extended events that test your ability to be self-sufficient when the systems you rely on fail without warning. The first essential FEMA emphasizes is water, and not just the familiar advice to store a few bottles. Water has become a national Achilles heel, and the agency now recommends a minimum of 1 gallon per person per day for at least 3 days, though their preferred recommendation is a full 2-week supply. This shift reflects the reality that America's water infrastructure is old, strained, and repeatedly pushed to the breaking point. Across the country, entire communities experienced sudden disruptions from industrial leaks, chemical spills, droughts, and targeted cyber attacks against water utilities. In 2024, a severe freeze in Texas turned roads into sheets of ice and caused pipes to burst statewide, wiping clean grocery store shelves of bottled water in just 2 hours. In another incident, hackers disabled water systems in multiple towns, leaving thousands relying on emergency deliveries. These events proved something painfully obvious: tap water is only reliable until one unexpected disaster takes it away. And the human body is unforgiving when it comes to dehydration. After 24 hours without water, thirst and discomfort set in. After 48, dizziness and confusion make even simple tasks difficult. At 72 hours, the body begins to experience organ stress. In a crisis, water becomes far more than something to drink. It's what you need to cook, clean wounds, manage hygiene, and maintain even the most basic standard of living. FEMA's message is clear: if the faucet stopped running tomorrow, your home should be prepared to function independently for days, not hours. Food is the second survival essential, and here again, FEMA has dramatically expanded its guidance. Instead of the old 3-day supply rule, the agency now advises every household to store 14 days of non-perishable, calorie-dense food per person. This change is rooted in the supply chain instability that defined 2024 and 2025. Port strikes slowed shipments for weeks at a time. Floods crippled distribution centers, and droughts in farming regions reduced crop yield. The result was a cycle of rolling shortages. Store shelves didn't just empty during a disaster, they stayed empty because the supply chain could not recover quickly enough. During the 2025 ice storm that slammed into the Northeast, panic buying spread instantly. Entire aisles were cleared in less than 6 hours, and trucks were delayed for days due to road closures and freezing conditions. FEMA's new emphasis on no-cook shelf-stable foods reflects the reality that you may not have electricity, gas, or clean water to prepare meals. Canned meats, peanut butter, nuts, granola, dried fruits, and ready-to-eat meals become life-sustaining tools rather than pantry fillers. The agency wants households to shift away from the belief that stores will always be there, always have stock, and always reopen quickly. In a prolonged emergency, your kitchen becomes your lifeline, and what's on your shelves determines how well you endure the crisis. Communication becomes the third critical element of survival, and FEMA now highlights the need for a battery-powered or hand-crank NOAA weather radio. This might seem like an outdated device in a world dominated by smartphones, but during disasters, cell towers fail, networks overload, and digital communication collapses long before the emergency ends. When Hurricane Helene struck in 2024, thousands of residents reported losing cell service within hours, Yet households equipped with NOAA radios received evacuation alerts, hazard warnings, and shelter updates long before others. The data showed that these homes evacuated 40% faster, dramatically increasing their safety. The radio becomes a lifeline to the outside world, a simple, rugged tool that continues functioning even when everything else goes dark. In a crisis, information is not a luxury. It's a survival resource just as vital as food and water. Being informed means acting early, avoiding danger, and staying ahead of the chaos unfolding around you. Lighting is the fourth essential, and FEMA stresses the need for a reliable flashlight paired with extra batteries. This may seem like a basic item, but blackouts in the past year have lasted significantly longer, many stretching between 48 and 72 hours. During these outages, families quickly learned that smartphone flashlights drain precious battery life, and once those phones die, communication and emergency access vanish. In the Midwest blackout of 2025, injury reports showed that households with proper lighting experienced 3 times fewer accidents compared to those relying on makeshift solutions or dim phone flashlights. Darkness is more dangerous than most people realize. Stairs become hazards, debris becomes invisible, and even simple tasks become risky. At the same time, a flashlight is only as useful as the power behind it, which is why FEMA now stresses the importance of storing extra batteries, not as an optional precaution, but as an absolute necessity. As the electrical grid suffers under extreme weather and increasing demand, prolonged blackouts are no longer rare, they are the new normal, and navigating those long nights safely requires dependable light that won't die when you need it most. The fifth essential on FEMA's updated preparedness list is an upgraded first aid kit, one far more advanced than the simple bandage and ointment kits many people keep at home. In 2025, FEMA added 2 items that were never part of their official recommendations before: Narcan and fentanyl test strips. This change was driven by a rise in accidental exposures across the country, especially in public shelters, crowded evacuation centers, and disaster zones where debris and abandoned belongings create unpredictable hazards. Narcan, a life-saving medication that reverses opioid overdoses, has become crucial in environments where medical help may be delayed for hours. Fentanyl test strips allow families to test suspicious substances, protecting children especially from unintended contact. Along with these new additions, FEMA highlights the importance of trauma pads, antiseptics, gloves, CPR shields, fever reducers, and electrolyte solutions. In disaster after disaster, from hurricanes to wildfires, emergency rooms have been overwhelmed and ambulances have been delayed by debris, flooding, and sheer demand. Injuries and illnesses that would normally be quickly treated can escalate in severity when medical services are unavailable. This revised first aid kit is not just a box of supplies, it is a bridge between the moment something goes wrong and the moment professional help finally arrives. The sixth essential, a simple whistle, might surprise some people, yet it has saved hundreds of lives. FEMA emphasizes that shouting for help is unsustainable. Human voices weaken quickly, especially under stress, dehydration, or injury. A whistle, on the other hand, carries over long distances with almost no effort. During the 2024 California wildfires, more than 200 survivors were located because they used whistles to alert rescuers through thick smoke and low visibility. In situations where debris traps people, where darkness hides them, or where exhaustion prevents them from calling out, a whistle becomes a powerful communication tool. It allows rescuers to triangulate locations faster, and it conserves precious energy. Emergencies are not always dramatic events seen from a distance. They often involve people trapped, disoriented, or unable to move. A whistle, small and easily overlooked, dramatically increases the chance that help will reach you before conditions worsen. Next, FEMA identifies dust masks, plastic sheeting, and duct tape as the seventh essential, and together they serve one purpose: creating a sealed safe room inside your home. As disasters evolve, the threat is no longer only floods or storms, but also airborne hazard. Wildfire smoke, chemical spills, and biological contamination events have become more frequent, and they bring risks that are invisible yet extremely dangerous. A sealed room provides a barrier between your family and the outside air. During the Texas chemical explosion of 2025, residents who had the supplies and knowledge to seal a room reduced toxin exposure by nearly 80%, buying time until evacuations could be safely conducted. This safe room method is simple. Choose an interior space with minimal windows, use plastic sheeting to cover openings, and reinforce everything with duct tape. It creates a temporary sanctuary where the air remains breathable and contaminant-free. In past disasters, many injuries and hospitalizations were not caused by the event itself, but by exposure to what followed: smoke, fumes, dust, and airborne chemicals. These basic supplies give households a powerful defensive tool against threats that cannot be fought with strength, speed, or skill. The eighth essential FEMA lists is a set of hygiene items, moist towelettes, garbage bags, and basic sanitation supplies. This category may seem less dramatic than radios or emergency tools, but it is equally critical. After major disasters, more people historically die from infectious diseases than from the initial event. When water supplies are disrupted, bathrooms cannot function, and cleaning becomes nearly impossible. Bacteria spreads quickly. In the 2024 Midwest floods, over 1,200 people were hospitalized because of sanitation-related infections. Lack of proper waste disposal, dirty living conditions, and contaminated water created the perfect environment for illness to spread. Hygiene supplies allow families to maintain cleanliness even when running water is unavailable. Moist towelettes can clean hands, faces, and surfaces. Garbage bags allow for safe disposal of waste. Simple soap and disinfectants help prevent disease outbreaks in cramped or compromised environments. Emergencies are stressful enough, but being sick during one, especially when medical access is limited, turns a difficult situation into a life-threatening one. These hygiene supplies create a protective barrier that prevents small problems from becoming dangerous. The ninth essential on FEMA's list is a multi-tool or compact survival tool. This single item replaces the need for a dozen specialized tools and becomes invaluable during chaotic moments when time is scarce and mobility is limited. A good multi-tool can cut through debris, open canned food, repair gear, shut off utilities, and perform minor fixes that might otherwise require a toolbox. The reasoning behind this addition is grounded in real events. After a tornado tore through several Midwestern neighborhoods in 2024, many residents were trapped behind fallen branches, collapsed fences, and jammed doors. Families who had multi-tools were able to clear exits 4 times faster than those who had to wait for help. Emergencies rarely give warnings, and when evacuation becomes necessary, obstacles can appear instantly. A multi-tool empowers households to solve problems immediately rather than helplessly waiting while time slips away. It is not about having every tool possible. It is about having one device that can adapt to whatever the moment demands. FEMA's 10th essential, the emergency headlamp, might seem redundant when flashlights are already recommended, but the headlamp serves a fundamentally different purpose. While a flashlight requires one hand to operate, a headlamp frees both hands, providing steady illumination in front of you while allowing full mobility. This becomes crucial during nighttime evacuations, first aid situations, or any moment when you must move quickly in darkness. In cases where someone is injured and needs medical help, a headlamp enables you to treat wounds, search bags, or navigate debris without constantly shifting a light source. Studies from recent blackout events show that households using headlamps experienced fewer falls and injuries because they could walk, climb stairs, and carry supplies without juggling a flashlight. The headlamp transforms your ability to operate during blackouts, turning pitch-black chaos into manageable visibility. FEMA's inclusion of this item recognizes that emergencies do not wait for daylight and that the ability to see clearly, hands-free, can prevent accidents and save lives. The 11th essential, emergency medications and printed copies of prescriptions, emerged from a growing problem faced nationwide: delayed medical services. Ambulance response times have increased by more than 20% since 2023 due to staff shortages, overwhelmed hospitals, and hazardous roads during disasters. Pharmacies often close during emergencies or run out of crucial medications. For people with chronic conditions such as asthma, diabetes, or high blood pressure, missing even a day or two of medication can lead to serious complications. FEMA now advises households to maintain a 7 to 14-day backup supply of essential pills and inhalers, along with printed copies of prescriptions in case digital records cannot be accessed. These documents also help during evacuations where medical staff may need immediate information about allergies, dosage requirements, and existing conditions. Emergencies blur routines, disrupt supply chains, and isolate people from healthcare access. Having medications ready ensures continuity, stability, and peace of mind during the most turbulent moments. The 12th essential on FEMA's updated list is the combination of a cell phone and a reliable solar charger, a pairing that reflects how modern survival has evolved. In previous decades, emergency kits focused solely on analog tools, maps, whistles, radios, but today, smartphones are often the first lifeline people turn to when disaster strikes. They connect us to emergency services, family members, weather updates, evacuation routes, and GPS navigation, but their usefulness collapses the moment the battery dies, and in 2024 the average US blackout lasted 56 hours. Millions of people found themselves with a useless phone on the second day of an outage, unable to call for help, check on loved ones, or even determine if the situation outside was improving or worsening. A solar charger turns that vulnerability into resilience. It allows households to keep their phones functioning without depending on the fragile electrical grid. During extended blackouts in the Pacific Northwest, countless residents managed to stay informed only because they had solar chargers tucked away in emergency kits. FEMA now emphasizes that these chargers should be stored in go bags or accessible locations, not buried deep in drawers. Low power mode, offline maps, text-based communication, and disciplined usage become part of the survival strategy. A phone is more than a communication tool. It is a map, a database, a flashlight, a weather monitor, a connection to the outside world, and in many situations, a digital safety net that can guide you through the chaos. Finally, FEMA's 13th essential is something that cannot be bought in a store or stored in a container: the preparedness mindset. Of all the items on the list, this one is the most important because it determines whether the other 12 items will actually help you. A prepared mindset means accepting that disasters in 2025 and beyond are different from those of the past. They are faster, often appearing with little warning. They are more unpredictable, shaped by changing weather patterns, global tensions, and aging infrastructure. And they last longer, stretching for days or weeks rather than hours. A preparedness mindset is not about fear. It is about awareness, realism, and responsibility. It acknowledges that government assistance can take time to arrive, that stores cannot restock instantly, that power grids are not invincible, and that water systems are not guaranteed to function every day of the year. This mindset leads to steady, thoughtful preparation, assembling supplies gradually, learning basic skills, practicing evacuation plans, and staying informed. Without this mindset, even the best prepared kit often sits unused or half-finished. People put off buying batteries, ignore expiration dates, forget to refill medications, or assume they will always have time to get ready. But emergencies rarely give warnings. The mindset to prepare in advance becomes the guiding principle that makes every other item on FEMA's list truly effective. When these 13 essentials are combined, they create a layered shield around a household. Protection against hunger, dehydration, darkness, medical emergencies, communication breakdowns, contamination, and sudden displacement. But what makes the 2025 update so important is that it reflects the new nature of American emergencies. The past year exposed vulnerabilities that can no longer be ignored. Storms intensified more rapidly than forecast predicted. Heat waves triggered rolling blackouts across multiple states. Aging infrastructure buckled under the pressure of extreme weather. Floods reached neighborhoods once considered safe. Water systems suffered contamination events that forced entire towns into panic. Wildfire smoke drifted hundreds of miles, affecting communities that had never previously experienced air quality emergencies. Meanwhile, global supply chain disruptions affected everything from food availability to medical equipment, creating shortages that lasted far beyond the disasters themselves. Consider the families who endured the 2025 ice storm that froze major regions of the Northeast. Within hours, power lines collapsed under the weight of ice, cell towers lost their backup generators, and roads became impassable. Stores ran out of food and water the first day. People who had ignored preparedness lists found themselves scrambling, cold, and cut off. But those who had stocked the 13 essentials weathered the storm with far greater stability. Their water supplies lasted. Their food sustained them when stores remained closed for nearly a week. Their flashlights and headlamps allowed them to move safely in dark houses. Their first aid kits treated injuries caused by slippery floors and falling ice. Their NOAA radios provided updates long after phone networks failed. Their solar chargers kept their phones alive. And above all, their mindset kept them calm, focused, and ready to make decisions based on information rather than fear. A similar pattern unfolded during the cyber attack that disabled water utilities in several states. Overnight, entire towns lost access to clean tap water. Panic buying emptied shelves immediately, leaving many families dependent on emergency distribution trucks that took days to arrive. Households that had ignored water storage guidelines had no ability to cook, clean, or maintain hygiene. But the families who had listened to FEMA's earlier warnings, those who stored a 2-week supply, were unaffected. They could drink, cook, wash, and clean without stepping foot outside. They avoided long lines, stayed safely indoors, and had the freedom to wait calmly as the situation was resolved. Their preparedness did not just give them supplies, it gave them independence. Another example comes the 2024 California wildfires, where smoke filled entire counties and visibility dropped to near zero. Air quality alerts reached record levels, and thousands of residents were advised to stay indoors. But only a fraction had the materials necessary to create sealed rooms. Those who did were able to breathe clean, filtered air, while others inhaled dangerous levels of smoke and particulate matter. The safe rooms became vital shelters, especially for children, seniors, and people with respiratory conditions. Once again, the importance of preparation, not panic, became clear. Even something as simple as the whistle proved its value. In post-disaster search operations, rescuers found that whistle signals were the most effective means of locating survivors, louder and more consistent than shouting, easier to identify than faint knocks or tapping. In one case, a woman trapped under debris after a building collapse survived because her whistle allowed rescuers to find her hours earlier than they otherwise might have. FEMA's list may seem basic at first glance, but each item carries real, documented evidence that it saves lives. The growing unpredictability of modern disasters reflects not only nature but also the interconnected systems that society relies on. When one system fails, electricity, water, communication, transportation, others quickly follow. A blackout disables gas pumps, which affects evacuation. A contaminated water supply strains hospitals. A supply chain delay triggers food shortages. A communication failure spreads confusion. The 13 essentials work together to break these chains of vulnerability. Water and food sustain your body. Radios and chargers connect you to information. Tools and lighting protect your immediate environment. Medications maintain your health. Hygiene supplies prevent disease. And the preparedness mindset ties everything together, ensuring each item is updated, accessible, and ready for use. As we move deeper into this era of rapid change, the households that thrive will be the ones that recognize the shift now. Preparedness is no longer a fringe concept. It is a practical, responsible approach to living in a world where disruptions are becoming more frequent. FEMA's 2025 update is not meant to frighten but to empower. It is a roadmap, a clear guide built from real events and real lessons learned. It reminds us that stability begins at home, and when the next crisis hits, whether a storm, a blackout, a contamination event, or something completely unexpected, these 13 essentials can mean the difference between panic and control, danger and safety, vulnerability and resilience.